Good morning, this is Wild Bill here in North Carolina, and I've posted a time or two on a couple of the forums of my process that I infuse oil into my frames. There's lots of ways to do that. Pen makers, there's some pen makers that sells the fellow with cactus juice. Sells great little vacuum chambers. I had a real hard time finding this one, but I had read a post where Bill Hayes puts his resins, infuses them into his frame, and he explained, you know, a 3-gallon or so glass jug, whatnot, and hand vacuum pump. Bought this at a auto parts store, and it'll draw it out. So what I'm going to do, I had posted a picture, just a short video of the fork, of it pumped up and bubbles coming out of it, the air coming out of it. Well, I do that about a couple of times, and the last time I let it sit under pressure all night, and this morning, just then, and I should have showed it, but I'll show it in a bit. I released the air on it, released the valve, and watched the oil went down, or the oil went down just a little bit more. I'm going to run a test here shortly. These are 2 pieces of rhododendron, different ages, different thicknesses. It's ends off of some of my frames. I'll slice a clean slice off of each end, just like if we were, you know, I was going to cut, and then I'll weigh them and then put them in the chamber and let it go through the infusion process, and then weigh them again and then cut them open. We'll see just how far the oil gets drawn in there. I cut a piece earlier that I had put in the other day, but I had not weighed it, and I hadn't cut. This is also a piece of rhododendron that it was. There we are. That's the way it was, and I just stuck the whole thing in the chamber through the process, and then cut it a few minutes ago. But I want to show the process. But that don't know if we can. It's hard to tell, but you can see that the oil is in there. You'll be able to tell when I cut the slice off then, and we'll have a before and after of it. I'm going to pull. I just set. This is a new frame that I'm working on. It's a really neat frame. It's a piece of rhododendron. Was letting the. It's gone through about 3 times of the oil process, and I just was letting it drip off. Now I'll take it like this wet, and this t-shirt here is just saturated over several weeks. And I'm going to take this out and set it in a real hot sun and just let it do its thing for a couple hours, forget about it, and then I'll come back, and what's left, I'll take a wire brush. Well, it's not a wire brush, it's a nylon brush, and this one's wore considerably. It's probably about 180 grit to begin with, and it's well, maybe, and getting closer, a little over 2 now. It's wore, but I will put it on my little drill press and burnish it real high speed, and then I'll go through the polishing process of it. This frame here, let me just show you. It's a neat little deal. Of course, it's wide. Now I cut it because I wanted to show a frame. I wanted to do a frame. That's the thing with naturals, you can do that. I wanted to show it so the forks were pointed forward, maybe, I guess, like a little overdraw, give you a couple more inches. Well, I'm going to hold it in my right hand because it does work both. It is cut for my hand, but there's very little contour at all. There was just a big old knot right here, big limb came off the side, so that's what this little shape is. But I cut it so my hand would slide right in, and as I'm holding it, I get my wife to make sure the limbs, but the fork tip's perpendicular that way. Now, you can also turn this frame around, shoot fork supported, either hand, or you can slide on up and do this, whatever you feel comfortable. But just straight wrist is what I am working mostly on, is to take any pressure off this wrist, and just like you was punching or pointing, you know, you look at some of the Spanish, well, all your upright grips, hammer grips, your wrists are straight, and it's just like pointing. It helps more intuitive. Fork support in the same way. You're still got your hand to point, but this is a little more natural and it's just what I like to use. It's easier on my wrist. So I'm gonna go out and set this in the sun and get this underway. Then I'm gonna come back and we'll cut the two little pieces, weigh them, put them in the thing, watch it bubble, do it a couple of times, and come back. Then we'll be able to see just how good the system is. Okay, I'm back, Wild Bill back, and I'm going to take these two pieces of rhododendron, and we're going to cut them. Okay, I didn't want to cut much off of them because I want to leave as much thickness as I can to see as far as just the oil draw. But here are the cutoffs. Here are the cutoffs. Of course, you can't tell. It's hard to get real clear, at least for me. You know, there's obviously no oil. These are dry as they can be. So I'm going to put the two pieces. Let's see what they weigh. And I'll show the camera on one of them. On this well, I'll do them both. I'm calling this the short one. Weigh at 30 grams. 30 grams on the short one. Just for Haas. 30 grams. Okay. The long one is 26 grams. Okay. Now, let's set this to where I'm not going to be totally in the way. Okay. Alright. I'm going to take these two pieces, the scale out of the way. I've got a sock with a couple of bolts in it. It's my weight. If I can get them both under it. Okay, we got them submerged and we've got an end that we can see here. Alright. Put a little oil on here. I had to rig this lid up, take this apart off and buying it. There was a kitchen store that was going out of business and it was just a pop-on lid. Well, under it I put some real heavy, thick rubber gasket material under the whole thing. And still it wouldn't seal. So just a little ratchet strap. Alright, a little valve here. Let's turn it here. Sorry, I had to cut the camera off there for a second because I can't, won't let me zoom in. I'm going to start pumping. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You see the bubbles start to rise. It starts sucking pressure out pretty good. Now these were really dry ends. Now that other fork, a complete fork where you've got a lot more room or a lot more wood to work with and more moisture, those pieces are just bone dry. But if I had some of the little moisture, this process will help draw it out. Obviously, if you're going to draw all the hydrogen molecules out, suck through, then water, the basic of water, is not going to be there. But anyway, normally with and I'm just keep pumping it. If I had a gauge on it, seems like I read on one of the pin sites like it needs to be, or at least and it may be. Depending on the specific gravity of the fluid, whether it's resin, oils, whatever, specific gravity may have a factor on it. Temperature, obviously, and density of the wood, the type of wood, of just how negative of pressure you need to have for it to start drawing the air out. But with this, I need to get a little old electric pump. That'd certainly be good. But the more it'll get to. Alright, that's about as close as I can get for it to focus. Just a little small camera. As you can see, the air bubbles is being drawn out of it, just as in the video, the first video. And you see all the collection of the bubbles. Now I can keep pumping. My little pump, I don't think will build up. Once it gets to a certain negative pressure, it won't pump anymore. At least wise. Now that's why, like the chamber itself. The chamber itself would certainly benefit to be a smaller chamber as far as how much you need to pump and how much fluid you need. Like a short, shallow, rectangular, square, 3 or 4 inches deep would be plenty as long as it's sealed. I can fill that on up with oil now and dissipate more air out of it, and I wouldn't have to pump as near as much. Just be more oil to stick my arm down into. But I could, oh gosh, I could probably infuse dozens of forks in there at the same time. I am going to get a little electric pump so I can just cut it on and watch a valve, you know, when the pressure starts dropping. If I start losing pressure as it sucks it out of the wood. We don't know if we're going to be able to see it on that little bit, but with a big chunk of wood, after you watch the bubbles and it bubbles for a good while, then I do it a couple of times, then I want to release the valve and get the air back in there and do so you can actually see the oil level drop. But we'll prove that by the weight and the look and just see how much oil is being infused. Alright, when I get it, when it goes through the process where there's no more bubbles coming out of it, I'll hook her back up and we'll just check and see what the results are. Alright, have a good day. Wild Bill out.